Welcome to this video. In this video, you will learn how to use the Top N function within Power BI. We will first discuss how to write the text formula for the Top N function. Afterwards, we will see how you can adjust the numbers of your Top N formula. At the end, I've got a tip that will help you in making the top function dynamic to choose between a preset range of values for your Top N function. So let's start the video. You can use the Top N function when you want to create an additional filter within a given context. Example questions that can be answered by the Top N function are: which amount of sales does a particular customer get from his top 3 selling products? The additional filter would then be the top 3 selling products, and the given context is the particular customer. So let's see how we can create a formula to do so. First, we are going to create a new measure. We can call this Top N sales. So in this function we start with calculate and then the expression, in this case sales, and then we start with the Top N function. Now Power BI asked how many values it should take. For this scenario we take 3, but you can also of course use other values such as 5 or 4. Then it would like to know from which table the values should be ranked. In this case, we are talking about the top products, so we take the products table. And afterwards, Power BI would like to know which expression to order by. In this case, this would be the products, so the product name. Then the last step is to define whether we would like to view the products in ascending or descending order. For this case, we choose ascending. Now we have created the Top N sales measure. So let's have a look at the result. We can compare the two values by adding two cards. We take one for the sales and the other one for the Top N sales. So now we can see that the total sales was equal to 2.67k, while the top products provided a revenue of about 1k. So the top 3 products only provided 1k of the total revenue. So if you would be willing to analyze this on a customer level, we could create a bar chart. So we insert a bar chart and put the customer name on the x-axis and the top sales as values. So now we can see that the supermarket, for example, receives about 250 euros from the top 3 products, while the big shopper only receives 123 euros from the top 3 products. Although this is already pretty interesting, we can improve the analysis. Because customers often vary in size, it will be more interesting to see which percentage of sales comes from the top 3 customers rather than the sales amount. So to analyze this, we will create a new measure called the Top N as percentage. So to analyze this, we will create a new measure called Top N as percentage. Now this measure divides the Top N sales by the total sales. So we call it Top N sales as percentage. And we divide the Top N sales by the total sales. Now we can also visualize this in a bar chart. And we can now compare the two bar charts to each other. So where the supermarket had the highest revenue amount coming from the top 3 products, when we look at the percentages, we can see that the local shop has a slightly higher percentage of sales coming from the top 3 products. Also, ShopIt only has a small percentage of their sales coming from the top 3 products, while the revenue amount is quite high from the top 3. So this shows that it is always important to look at the relative figures. To adjust the number of values we would like to view in our Top N calculation, we can use 2 different methods. The first one is manually adjusting the formula. So we click on our measure, and instead of 3, we can choose any other value. So for example, we take the top 2 products. So now we have manually adjusted the top N formula to show 2 products rather than 3. Now another way to do this is to make the top N measure dynamic. And to do this, we will need a new table. So we go to data and click on new table. And we will now generate a column with possible values for our top N measure. And to do this, we use generate series. We choose a start value, which is 1, the end value of 5, and the increment value 1. So now PowerBI has generated a list of all the top N values which we can choose from, ranging from 1 to 5. So with this table, we can create a measure that we will insert in the top N function. This measure can be created by using the selected value function. We call it top N and use the selected value function. And it is equal to the value which we choose from the filters. So now to see if it is working, we insert it as a card. And we also use a filter. So now if we choose a value, this top N should change. So now we see that it is working. Now we can see that PowerBI shows a blank, and this is because we have nothing selected. And therefore, we need to tell PowerBI what we do if the value is empty. For this case, we want PowerBI to take the top 3 as a default measure. And to do this, we use an if statement. So if the selected value is equal to 0, we want the default to be 3. If this is false, so if we have selected something, then we want our selected value. So we have nothing selected, so now it shows that the top N is equal to 3. If we then select the value, we can see that the value will change. This means that the measure is working. Now the last step to make everything dynamic is we need to change the value that we have set in the top N sales to the measure which we just defined and have created. So instead of 2, we insert our top N value. So now we can see if we adjust the top N that the whole report changes. So from the top 3 products, we have about 1K of sales for all customers. If we change this to the top 4 products, we can see that we have about 1.2K for the top 4 products. Hopefully from this video you have learned a few things, namely that the top N function is a function that allows you to create additional filters in a given context. Also, you have learned how to create a formula to calculate the top N sales. And lastly, you have learned that you can adjust the number of values by changing the n value in the formula, or by creating a measure that is linked to the top N function that allows you to set your own value. If you like this video and you would also like to learn more about business analytics, you can subscribe to the channel. Also let me know in the comments if you subscribed and what you would like to learn next. Thank you for watching.